In the past, I've talked a lot about my shaky internet. Effectively living out in the middle of nowhere gives me massive latency issues, making online gaming pretty much impossible. But as soon as you find a way around that, the doors that open for you.
I always wondered what TF2 would be like if it had waifus. Those were some deeply confusing dreams. The comparisons with Team Fortress 2 might seem only skin deep, but you don't have to dig too far to find a ton of similarities. Not that that's a bad thing, mind you. TF2 is one of the best games I've ever played. I'd have liked Overwatch if it just gave me more of what made TF2 so fun. Now that I'm in the kind of position that let me pour the last month into Overwatch, I don't see myself going back to TF2 somehow. Hey, does your game have 9 characters to choose from? Well, this one has 22. Probably 23, but I'm not waiting around for the somber ARG to sort itself out. I'd like to die someday. At first it's a bit daunting with so many options, but there's enough there for you to play pretty much however you want. I would extend it out to a top 22 or something, but that means I'd have to name what hero I think is the worst. This way I can keep you guessing. We all know though, I don't need to say it. Can't even make a joke here because people will think I'm being serious. You've ruined me, internet, you really have.
Ever get that feeling of deja vu?
So the first time you boot up Overwatch, who do you play as first? The long shot bowman guy? The strong Russian lady? Science Harambe? Crawling in my skin? Nah, if you bought into the hype and are as geographically well endowed as me, then frankly the only choice you have is to play Tracer. If Overwatch has a mascot, then Tracer is probably the most qualified to take up that role, and the good news is that she's pretty fun to play as. Screwing around with time is a brilliant feature to implement in this kind of game, and it makes every death as Tracer kinda your fault. You can blink ahead and rewind time every 12 seconds. You really shouldn't be dying all that often. She lacks firepower, but her ridiculous mobility makes her incredibly hard to pin down, and one hell of a force if you're willing to put in the time and effort to master this playstyle. You can zip all over the map and either chip off health from afar, or move in close to eliminate high-value targets. Do enough of this to charge up your ultimate and you can drop a bomb on someone from out of nowhere. Very quick way of destroying sentries or just ruining days in general. You'll be getting so much done and causing so many problems that you won't even notice her accent. You know when someone tries to do accents but can't really wrap their vocal cords around the specific cadences? Yeah, just thought I'd bring that up. Real cockneys gotta be wondering if they sound like that to the rest of the world.
A warrior's greatest weapon is patience.
Is there any place on the battlefield for peace? Surely it's a bit hypocritical to be preaching messages of love and tolerance when you're sticking your thumbs in someone's eyes. Especially a take on a Buddhist monk. Those guys are pretty chill. Clearly, robots just make everything more violent.
Oh, Zenyatta, I thought you were going to be absolutely terrible. Honestly, I feel like I had plenty of evidence to support this. I mean, when have you ever seen a peace lover kick butt? Because the Civilization games totally don't exist in this parallel universe I've constructed. More than not being the worst character, Zenyatta takes the idea of being a support character geared towards healing and generally aiding your teammates, and makes it really fucking interesting. Unlike someone like Mercy who has to be firmly embedded up the rear end of whoever she's healing, Zenyatta can hang back and fire his magical peace orbs and bring them up to full health from quite far away. He's also got these other less peaceful orbs that increase damage taken by an enemy, which makes him a surprisingly potent threat at choke points. Again, you can hang back, let off one of these Discord orbs or whatever it's called, and then spam the hell out of your other orbs, racking up quite a bit of damage in the process. It's just as well that you don't have to get close to people to feel useful, because Zenyatta feels like, and probably is, the most fragile character in the game. I mean, his health bar is more shield than actual health, so maybe that gives you a good indication of just how little you need to do to kill him. And unlike other characters with low health, Zenyatta is a slow bastard. Find yourself in a difficult situation and you'll almost certainly die to it. The only way out is to use your ultimate, which makes you invincible, faster, and heals nearby allies by a massive amount. Useful, but not as spectacular as other ults. Still, the idea of kicking ass as Robo-Buddha is worth all the downsides. I'll tear out your throat with my lack of desire towards material possessions. Life is pain, let me show you.
I'm a one-man apocalypse.
Hailing from that post-apocalyptic land of criminals we like to call Australia, and that's before some robots went AWOL and fucked it up further, we have the killing machine stroke pigman known as Roadhog, a tank character who doesn't really play like a tank character. I mean, he's got the health, holy shit he's got the health. Pretty hard to take down before you give him a way of healing himself. But tanks are supposed to soak up damage for the team and put themselves in the line of fire. You get the most out of Roadhog by flanking the enemy and picking them off one by one. Getting in the range of his hook as a fragile character is practically game over. He struggles at longer distances as you'd expect, but most snipers focus on where there's lots of people, so those back alleys are even more valuable for you. You could make the argument that Roadhog's playstyle is a bit predictable because all he ever wants to do is get as close to high value targets as possible, drag them his way and then take them out swiftly, but really, there's not a lot of counters to this. The focus on close range combat carries over to his ultimate, which becomes nigh on useless if you try and attack medium ranged opponents with it. Put them near a cliff and they'll go flying off of it though, so I guess that's cool. An unconventional hero with an unconventional playstyle and an unconventional choice of weapon. Torbjorn is over there using scrap to make armor. Roadhog uses it as ammunition. He's smarter than he looks, this guy.
Anyone want a popsicle?
Everything I said about Tracer and how she's a really annoying hero to combat is still true, but don't worry, we can go one better. Like Zenyatta, I thought Mei wasn't gonna be a great character to play as. I don't know, just previous experiences of ice in video games led me to believe that it'd be like pulling teeth using a hairbrush. Oh, but it is, but only when you're face to face with one. Playing as Mei is a load of fun. You float around the map with an ice gun that can freeze people at close range and shoot icicles for long range attacks, occasionally putting up an ice wall to block off paths with the added bonus of being invulnerable while healing yourself. Great fun, really glad she's in the game. Said no player ever!
I think there's a lot of mileage in annoying characters. It means you develop a greater appreciation for others that don't make you want to go on a murder spree. On the flip side, sometimes you just want to be as irritating as possible. It's kind of like griefing, but really well integrated into the game. I like to think Blizzard knew what they were doing. Ice, Blizzard, they totally knew what they were doing, didn't they?
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the most annoying character in the game and probably in any class-based multiplayer game ever made. Mei seems unassuming at first, but it's only when you're confronted with one that your mouse pointer moves closer and closer to the uninstall button. One-on-one with her, you're so dead. Oh man, there is no scale in which to measure your deadness at that moment. She can freeze you and then nail you in the head with her icicle, and by the 109th time it starts to get irritating. Add into that her ability to drop back and regain a huge amount of health at very little risk to herself, and an ultimate that can shut down a whole team as they try and push an objective, and it's agonizing stuff to try and fight against. The good news, because you can play as her, is it's also easy. Don't need to learn shot placement like with Tracer, just screw around with ice all day. It's a slippery slope, I tell you.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
If at first you don't succeed, use more explosives. Words to live by, though not necessarily applicable in all walks of life. I don't want to spend every moment of this video comparing Overwatch to TF2, but you can't just give me a character who wields a grenade launcher and some kind of sticky trap explosive that you can use to leap around and not immediately remind me of that glorious Scotsman from that hat simulator. Junkrat comes with a different accent but plays in a very similar way to TF2's Demo Man. I have a grenade launcher and you can bet your life that I'm going to spam the ever-loving shit out of it. It's a legitimate strategy, takes a lot of skill. And yet, thanks to having one of those bear traps, he possesses some pretty potent area control. You place your mine next to the trap and you've got a highly effective deterrent. Pretty much because any low-level class that ends up on top of it is probably not long for this world. Of course, you can just use the remote mine as a way of launching yourself around and ending up in locations you have no right to be in. Which comes in handy when using Junkrat's ultimate, the powerful and incredibly irritating Riptire. You can destroy it, but seeing this explosive tire coming and not being able to do anything about it doesn't feel great. He's classified as a defensive character, and while he certainly can do a lot of that, I find that he's got enough versatility to perform a range of tasks. Except healing, of course, and even if he could, you wouldn't want any of it. Crazy stuff happens in Australia. They got spiders and everything.
Gigi!
You hear a lot when loosely keeping up with what Overwatch players are talking about. It's all high noon this and Rugawa techie that. So you take this knowledge in when you finally play Overwatch, but then you find yourself blown across the map by some massive explosion that you can't really escape from. Every time you try to escape, but unless you can see it coming, D.Va's gonna destroy you. While not necessarily the strongest or even the most threatening character outside of her ultimate, D.Va makes up for lack of power with staying power. She's one of the few characters who never have to reload their weapon, and combining that with the defense matrix shield thing means that you can put a lot of pressure on your opponent to do something. Not a lot that heroes like Soldier 76 can do. I also like how much maneuverability her mech has. Tank classes in general have a hard time getting anywhere quickly, but you can use the boost to catch opponents out or just for straight up ramming into them. Her ultimate does have counters, but you really need to be playing as the right character. If you ever find yourself as a slow character without a means of escape, you're pretty much screwed. I know this gaming gremlin keeps coming out with the line,
Nerf this!
but I kinda feel like it should be. At least she isn't much of a threat outside of her mech. That's where the revenge happens.
A benefit of piloting a giant mech is that you've got greater firepower than you otherwise would, but it also means that it's very hard to outright kill D.Va. The mech has got a lot of health, but even then, it doesn't take very long to summon a new one. That's why it's such a great tactic to blow them up. The Korean government have got mechs for days.
%100% German power!
With all the crazy abilities that are so commonplace in Overwatch, you wouldn't have thought that a melee-based character would be able to get much done. Granted, that melee weapon is a giant rocket hammer, but you know, other guys have turrets and grenade launchers. If you want to play any kind of objective in a map, I know it's a novel concept, Reinhardt is maybe the most important character in that regard. Naturally, you don't want to be anywhere near him when he's swinging this giant hammer around, but backing up and shooting him isn't much of a backup plan either. This giant shield is pretty good. What you might not expect is that Reinhardt is capable of putting together some pretty powerful combos if you use his abilities in the right order. His ultimate renders anyone in front of him immobile for a short time, so you can hit them with the flame projectile thing, or ram them into a wall, or, you know, you could just whack them a few times with your giant fucking mallet. But this is all fluff, really. The main use of Reinhardt is to sit on objectives, making the opposing team's life significantly more difficult while making it much easier for your teammates to do their things. This very large, very old, and very German man is a valuable asset to any team. And he likes David Hasselhoff. Point just for pity, I suppose.
And that's how the West was won.
You'd be forgiven for thinking that behind all of the high nooning, there isn't much of a character to play, but good old Jesse McCree is all the grizzled cowboy vigilante that you're ever gonna need. He's been shot back a bit since, but he is a force to be reckoned with at both close and long range. From a distance, you can pick off opponents with perfectly placed headshots, which reminds me a lot of something else from another game, I don't know. And up close, you can stun foes with the flashbang grenade and either hit the headshot from point blank or unload all of the revolver at once. Either way, if you come up against a good McCree, you're never all that safe. Then, of course, we have his ultimate, which in the right hands and the right situation can be the most devastating in the game. Its reputation and the famous audio cue means that you really need to catch your foes unaware if you want to kill any of them. Sadly, McCree's mobility isn't brilliant. He's not all that fast and all he has is a combat roll. But if you are able to get behind the enemy team and hit them from an unknown position, the effect can be spectacular. You might want to play McCree because, lo, it's 12 o'clock, but I feel sustained play sessions will make your accuracy generally better. Failing that, you could always stare at his beard.
I'm your huckleberry.
Faster than sight.
Where did all these cyborg ninjas come from? Is everyone just really big fans of Deep Throat? When did this happen? Genji plays pretty much exactly like I'd expect and would like a ninja to play in this kind of hectic multiplayer game. Which is to say, really complicated actually. Whoever gives out these difficulty stars knows what they're talking about, although they've also got 3 stars for Mei and that's a dirty lie. Genji has a steep learning curve. Arguably the highest skill ceiling in the game, and it's a long old road to getting to a stage where you're getting the most out of him. With a double jump and the ability to climb walls, there's a lot you can do with Genji. You can play like a ninja and pick off foes one by one, or you can throw yourself straight into the fray. Which might seem like a terrible idea given how frail Genji is, but not every character with low health comes with a deflect ability. Don't really need to explain what that does. Never gets old though, you can throw yourself in front of bastions or Torbjorn turrets and watch them kill themselves. His ultimate isn't in the same vein as others where you can just press Q and end up with play of the game at the end, but catching the enemy unaware or flanking them while your teammates come through the front door, there's not a lot that can be done about that. In the wrong hands, you're little more than a cosplayer, but in the right hands, practically unstoppable.
Is this thing on?
So clearly the designers had plenty of fun thinking up interesting concepts for heroes, but you can extend this quite easily to their choice of weapons. Reaper's got twin shotguns, Torbjorn has some kind of rivet gun, not entirely sure what Zarya's using, and then we've got little old Lucio over there with a sound gun. You made some kind of music gun? Like the dubstep gun from Saints Row? And this isn't the best game of the year because I think I just really like support classes with a difference. Mercy's alright but a bit basic, Ana is cool but easily ineffective if not handled correctly, but Lucio is a huge benefit to his team without having to spend hours of trial and error trying to master his playstyle. You never heal anyone directly, instead one half of your sound gun pumps out healing waves, which passively heal any teammates near you. You can't focus on one target like Mercy or Ana, but between 6 characters including yourself, you get so much healing done! You can keep your whole team healed up if they're close enough, and Lucio's amazing mobility means that you can close that gap without too many problems. Becomes even easier when you flip to the other setting that trades out area healing for area speed boosting. Any character who makes everyone around them faster and gets them to where they want to be quicker, gonna be pretty popular. So doing all of this is already pretty cool, but the most important word in all of this is the word passive. As in, while other healers have to concentrate on doing that specific job, Lucio does it just by being around. Support classes in general tend to be an acquired taste, but here the healing takes care of itself, letting you spam sound wave attack things in the general vicinity of the enemy. And if you play your cards right and don't play like a prat, it's very hard to die as Lucio. Something about having all this regenerating health, crazy mobility, and an ultimate that gives nearby friendlies massive temporary shields. Also, he can run on walls. We have fun in this game.
This week, RabbidLuigi, and of all the ways of restoring health to your allies, music isn't where I would have gone, but I'm very glad we ended up there. Lucio actually does produce music, so Blizzard published for 2 songs that play on his sound gun. They're pretty good, but I wouldn't recommend listening to the healing one as a form of rehabilitation. It might sound good, but it's not likely to heal broken bones. It's important to know this stuff.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Really easy video to make. As I was playing Overwatch, I was making brief notes on what I liked, and it meant that writing all of this came from fresh impressions and flowed very freely. I was only able to make this video in the first place because I was using a special internet box that runs off mobile internet. Better ping times, but quite expensive to top up with data. Good news is that we've reached the goal on Patreon, so I can fuck off to Canada now where there should be better internet. I mean, there's other reasons, but sometimes you need an internet connection that doesn't make you want to hurt small animals. Enough dead rabbits around here to sink a battleship. Why would you use dead rabbits?